Today we're going to build a Thunder team in World Flipper. Do note that this is only a sample team and is no way the best Thunder team the game has to offer. We'll do our best to explain each unit and their skills as well as their synergies with each other. If you watched our previous video, we recommended some units to keep during your rerolls. One of those units is Rams. She increases Thunder units' skill damage by 100%. She can also function as a great sub-unit for increasing skill damage. We'll place Rams as our leader of the party. Rams is a 4-star Thunder unit. Her skill does Thunder damage to the nearest enemy and its surrounding area. It also does more damage when the enemy is paralyzed. Paralysis causes the boss to be unable to move or attacks. Her leader skill increases Thunder units' skill damage by 100%. Her first ability increases own skill damage by 50%. Her second ability further increases own skill damage by 30% every time the unit activates a skill. The maximum bonus is 120%. Her third ability only activates when she is the main unit. It increases the party's skill damage by 30% every time she uses her skill. The maximum bonus is 120%. We'll place Murakumo as her sub-unit. Murakumo is a 5-star wind unit and drops from the Orokai boss battle. His skill grants himself a 250% attack power buff for 15 seconds. It also increases the damage dealt to bosses during break by 50% for 15 seconds. His first ability buffs attack by 60% for 30 seconds at the start of battle. His second ability makes it easier to break down the enemy by 600%. His last ability only activates when he is the main unit. It grants the party the levitation buff when fever mode is activated. You can replace him with Clarice if you don't have him. We'll place Renoir as our second main unit. She is a 4-star Thunder unit. Her skill does Thunder damage to enemies in front of her. It also inflicts paralyze for 10 seconds and reduces Thunder damage resistance by 25% for 20 seconds. While a boss is paralyzed, they are unable to move or attack. Her first ability fills her skill gauge by 50% when she activates her skill. The effect only happens once. Her second ability increases the damage dealt to paralyzed enemies by 20%. Her third ability only activates when she is the main unit. It further increases damage to dealt to paralyzed enemies by 20% but only for Thunder units. We'll place Alk as her sub-unit. Ark is a 4-star fire unit. His skill does fire damage around him and grants the party an attack buff of 50% for 15 seconds. His first ability further increases the party's attack by 10%. His second ability fills the skills gauge by 100% at the start of battle. His third ability activates only when he is the main unit. It buffs his own attack by 30% when his own skill activates. The maximum is 120%. We'll place Shosusu in the third main slot. Shosusu is a 3-star Thunder unit. He specializes in boosting the skills and abilities of the leader. His skill fills the leader's skill gauge by 30% and buffs attack by 120% for 15 seconds. His first ability increases the leader's attack power by 20%. His second ability increases the leader's attack power by 10% every time that he activates a skill. The maximum amount is 40%. His third ability only activates when he is the main unit. It fills his skill gauge by 100% and buffs the leader's attack power by 10% at the start of battle. We'll place Posito as his sub-unit. Pogito is a 2-star wind unit. He can serve as a sub-unit. He can grant a levitate buff to all allies using his skill. His skill lasts for 9 seconds and also grants the party an attack buff of 40% and skill damage buff of 70% for 15 seconds. Not bad for a 2-star. His first ability further buffs attack by 15% when affected by levitate buff. His second ability increases the levitate buff duration by 20%. He doesn't have a third ability nor a leader skill. Here is our Thunder team. Rams is the leader of the party with Murakumo or Clarice as her sub-unit, with Rinnoir and Shosusu at the front lines. 𝐿 and Posito will fill out the roster. This team focuses on skill damage and skill gauge fill at the start of battle. We can further increase the damage by adding units that can inflict paralyze like Inaho and Tatiana. Next, we will discuss alternate units in case you don't have these ones. It should be easy to build this team though, since it doesn't have that many 5 stars. We can use Metis as the leader of our Thunder team. She isn't in the beginner banner yet. Her leader talent increase Thunder units attack power by 40%. It further increases Thunder units attack during fever by 75%. Her skill deals thunder damage to enemies around her. The damage is amplified by 25% when the enemy is paralyzed. Her first ability increases her own attack by 20%. It is boosted further by 40% when in fever mode. Her second ability further increases her attack by 20% and fills her skill gauge by 30% when entering fever mode. Her third ability only activates when she is the main unit. It increases her attack by 50% after using a skill. The maximum is 100%. It also fills the fever gauge by 500 for one time only. Bianca will be the sub-unit for Metis. She is a 4-star fire unit. She can deal fire damage and reduce fire resistance with her skill. The fire resistance reduction is 25% and lasts for 30 seconds. Her first ability increases the leader's attack by 25%. In this case, the leader is Metis. Her second ability increases the damage done by the leader when the enemy is debuffed by 15%. Her last ability increases the attack power of dragon-type units by 40%. However, it only activates when is the main unit. For our second main unit, we'll use Inaho. Inaho is a 5-star Thunder unit. Her skill deals thunder damage to the entire field but doesn't hit weak points. It also inflicts paralysis to all enemies for 10 seconds. Her first ability increases Thunder units attack by 15%. Her second ability increases the fever gauge by 25 every time a Thunder unit activates a skill. Her last ability only activates when she is the main unit. It increases her own attack by 200% during fever. We'll place Minho as her sub-unit. Minho is a 4-star Thunder unit. Her skill does thunder damage in front of her and grants an attack buff of 150% for 10 seconds to self at the cost of 10% of her HP. Her first ability buffs attack by 35% and deals damage to self by 20% at the start of battle. Her second ability buffs attack by 50% when HP is below 50%. We'll place Regis in the last main slot. Regis is another 4-star Thunder unit. His skill does thunder damage to the closest target. His first ability fills his skill gauge by 50% the first time he activates his skill. His second ability increases his skill damage by 30%. During fever, the increase is 70%. His last ability only activates when he is the main unit. It further increases his skill damage by 30% and fills his skill gauge by 50% when fever is activated. We'll place Cagliostro as his sub-unit. Cagliostro is a 5-star lightning unit. Her skill deals lightning damage to all enemies and heals the party for 10%. It is more effective on lightning units. It heals for 50%. Her first ability increases the healing received by the party by 5% every time own skill activates. The maximum is 25%. Her second ability increases own skill damage by 20% every time self is healed. The maximum is 100%. Her last ability only activates when she is the main unit. It fills her skill gauge by 40% and heals her HP by 20% every time she is revived. Here is our Thunder team with alternate units. Metis slots in for Rams, with Bianca as her sub-unit. Inaho and Regis will join her on the front lines while Minho and Cagliostro provide support. This team also focuses on doing massive damage to paralyzed enemies and during fever. Next, we'll talk about recommended weapons for this team composition. Recommended weapons: Tiger King Axe, 5-star Thunder Weapon. Boss Coin Exchange. Increases own skill damage by 20% every time a Thunder unit activates a skill. Maximum of 100%. Thor Hammer, 5-star Thunder Weapon. Labyrinth Collapsed Zone Thunder. Increases the damage to paralyzed enemies by 12.5% and break down damage by 15%. Sengo Strategy Manuscript. 4-star Non-Elemental Weapon. Gacha. Increases the attack power of self by 5% and fills own skill gauge by 40% at the start of battle. Philibus. 3-star Non-Elemental Weapon. Gacha. Fills the skill gauge of a Thunder unit by 22.5% at the start of battle. That's it for our Thunder team. If you found this guide useful, consider subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to like and share as well. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more videos for World Flipper. Watch out for more team building guides in the coming days. Have fun and we'll see you again next time.